hard work. Everybody does it, or at least they feel like they do. And sometimes it doesn't pan out the same way as we thought it would have. Well, let's talk about it. But what is hard work? It's obviously something that we think is hard, and something at the end of which we feel like we deserve a reward, or some sort of break, or some sort of recognition, or something like that. But what's hard for me may not be hard for you, and what's hard for you may be very hard for me. And that's kind of part of the problem. There's no one standard for what hard work is. Today, I wanted to share 3 short stories about some form of hard work. They deal with some of the adventures I've been having here in Panama. Remember, these are not the only ways we can look at working hard. Plenty of people work harder than me, and you'll see one of them later on. The first story that I have for you today is about me learning how to surf and hiking to a beach near where I was staying. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Hey everybody. Today's the day. I'm going to try to learn how to surf. I went through a local surf school in Bocas Del Toro. The guy driving the boat was our instructor. I learned near a reef where there were small waves. Perfect for a beginner like me. Afterwards, ow. Surfing still hurts. Sorry I couldn't get much footage when I was out there, but I was trying to make sure that I didn't lose what I was filming with, and also tried to make sure that I was being respectful of the coral reefs around there. I didn't want anything to fall. But overall, surfing was a really good experience, but my God, is it painful. Getting up on that board and paddling was exhausting. I don't think I'm very good at that yet, but I was able to finally catch one wave where I was able to stand up the entire time, and a couple waves where I stood up for about a second or so. But still, it was a really good experience. And now I'm on my way to a really secluded beach. It's called Polo Beach on La Isla Bastimentos in Panama. I mean, you can take a look and see what's around here. Just a gorgeous location. But let's see. I think I'm a little lost, but I think I'll be able to make it. We'll find out. All right. I'm near a beach. I'm not quite sure it's the right one. And you can see I'm kind of in the middle of the jungle. I've been walking for about half an hour by now. That's about how far away it is, so I should be close. What a quirky little spot. I think this is right. So, alright, time to enjoy the beach. The next place that I went to was this really interesting hostel in the middle of nowhere. It's called Lost and Found, and just like surfing, just like trying to get around to that beach, it was a bit of hard work. So, I just got dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and I'm trying to find my hostel. It's called Lost and Found. So, they said it was going to be an adventure just to get here, and it already was. I was in a shared bus, or what's known as a colectivo here, and with about 30, maybe 40 people. And we stopped for bananas, or plantains, we stopped for potatoes, and people just kept getting on and off as and when they needed to. But I think I'm here. There's at least some signs, so it's a good start. All right, there's another sign. Means I'm on the right path. Well, look at the path. And it was a hard hike through a somewhat tamed jungle. I was carrying my backpack with all of my things, and I was going up some very steep hills. Eventually, I made it to the top and enjoyed the beautiful views from the hostel. In the background is the imposing Baru volcano, and being so high in the mountains meant high winds. But that didn't stop me from taking a break. Speaking of breaks, I took a coffee break. That is, I took a break to go see how coffee is grown, harvested, and roasted. For the last story about hard work, I had a chance to tour a coffee farm in Hornito, which is in the foothills of the volcano Baru, which is actually right behind me. While I'm not a huge fan of this stuff, I know how important it is for a lot of people and how it helps them finish their hard work. Coffee is such an important crop here in the mountains of Panama, and it grows really well at this altitude. This is Cune. It's a nickname that comes from the Spanish word for rabbit, conejo. Cune owns a 100% organic farm in Panama, where he grows fruits, sugarcane, and of course, coffee. Cune has tried to use as few pesticides as possible on his farm for over 40 years. He was kind enough to take us on a tour of his farm, and in fact he gave us a few samples of his hard work, including a cup of sugarcane juice he squeezed between 2 branches. However, it wouldn't be a coffee tour without seeing some coffee plants. Growing and harvesting coffee is definitely hard work, harder than hiking up a hill or learning how to surf. Cune and his team harvest thousands of pounds of coffee during the growing season. In order to help save the planet, Cune composts the byproducts of the process. Eventually, after drying the beans, they are separated from the inner skin with a wooden dowel. This large stick hits the dried beans, shooting them out of their husks. There's a sort of artistry to this, as the tool must hit the center of the bowl, otherwise the beans would go flying onto the floor.
We separate the second skin.
After husking any last few beans by hand, the beans are rhythmically shaken to leave the small, hard bean behind. This is coffee before it's roasted. To roast coffee, we put the separated beans into this container and we had to keep moving it around by hand over an open flame. Little by little, the beans started to take on some color, eventually releasing a smoke as they darkened. After roasting the coffee for some time, we finally got to see the fruits of our labor, the familiar sight of dark coffee beans. After working so hard, we can look forward to a result of that hard work. This is the external and, frankly, sometimes internal effect and result that we're seeking. In fact, sometimes we won't even do something if we don't actually see some sort of result coming out of it. Some philosophical traditions say that we have to work. There's no way that we can get around it. So maybe we should give away some of the results of that effort in order to avoid getting caught up in the fruits of our labor. Other philosophies say just to work. It doesn't really matter what happens in the end. But why have all of these philosophical differences? Why really does it matter to think about whether or not work really binds us? Are we not entitled to the sweat of our own brow? I argue they're not our fruits alone. It's a result of our upbringings, or the time in which we live in, or somebody else's effort, really, that we can have something happen. Hard work is a good virtue, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it can bind us. And what happens if you don't get the fruits of those labor? Sometimes we can get tossed around by the waves life sends our way. Sometimes we don't get what we want, and we just keep getting hit. Instead, I'm suggesting we stop looking at the turbulent surface and dive down and explore the calm ocean below. Let me know what you think. See you next time.